Well, how would you like to crack the man code? Well, maybe you've been married for a long time, or maybe this is something you're thinking about, or you're in dating, midlife dating. Hey, join me. And I still say I'm midlife, but actually, as I am finished 59 years around the sun, entering my 60th, I just got another half of my life to live. So I really want to know about this thriving relationships as we age, the key to everlasting love and marriage, calling in your soulmate. So today's guest, I'm really excited. I met him over maybe 15 years ago, and he was and he had just published at that time his book called Project Everlasting. And now he has issued, available for pre-order, his book called Cracking the Man Code. I've been following him on social media and listening to his very entertaining Instagram reels and really thoughtful advice and insights into this area of love and relationships. And you know how I am, all about oxytocin. So that is, how can we make more oxytocin? In the blue zones, they have, you know, one of the keys is great community and long lasting marriages and relationships. So let's work on developing that even more. So today on my Girlfriend Doctor show, I have Matt Boggs. As I said, he's the best-selling author of Project Everlasting and creator of Cracking the Man Code. He is also one of today's most sought after dating coaches and relationship experts. His practical yet heart-centered advice has been featured on The Today Show, CNN, ABC, Oprah and Friends, and he shared the stage with legends like John Gray and Ariel Ford. So welcome to the Girlfriend Doctor show, Matt. It's so good to have you here.
Anna, it's good to reconnect. It has been a while.
It has been a while. It has been a while. I'm glad our paths have crossed and we've got you on. So I want you to share, first of all, like your journey in Project Everlasting.
Yes, that's a great place to start because people often ask, how did you get into this kind of a thing? And that was such a wild journey that my best friend and I and my grandma drove 12,000 miles interviewing America's greatest marriages in an RV with a documentary film crew following us around. And people are like, why did you do that? What was that about? And ultimately, it was because I wanted to learn for myself what makes lifelong love last. My parents are divorced. All my friends' parents are divorced. And as I was trying to create a relationship for myself all throughout my 20s, I was going through crash and burn relationship one after another. I finally met someone I thought I was going to marry. And she called me one day and said, I'm done. I don't want to pursue this. And it really felt like I was blindsided out of the blue and I was just bereft. And then I saw my grandparents' marriage, who had been married over 63 years. And there was something in me that so resonated with the kind of love they had that wasn't just, they were best friends and lovers and life partners. And it was just this beautiful mix of, I want what they've got.
Mm-hmm.
And in spending time with them before they passed away, because I was getting my master's degree in education. So I had some time, and once a week I would take them on these long drives. They would share with me their story, and I got to hear how it wasn't just all roses. It wasn't just easy. It was the ups and the downs. It was the time they wanted out, and it was how they practiced love with one another that created this kind of a love story. And so I wanted to find out what the common threads were. And so that's what led us to Project Everlasting. We interviewed over 300 couples and found the common principles. And what I learned from them absolutely changed my life. Like, it changed my life. And we published the book. It came out. And the last stop on the book tour, I ended up meeting my wife, but approaching that relationship completely differently than I would have before, which ultimately led us to being married. We celebrated 14 years married a couple of weeks ago and have 3 adorable little kids. And I am experiencing that dream achieved moment where,
Mm-hmm.
it's not perfect. We work at it and we make it better and we grow it. But it's she's the love of my life. And I get to be the dad I've wanted to always be. And I'm really so grateful for these couples who've opened their homes, to the experts who have come before us, who have written amazing books. And, my gift is in teaching and coalescing great concepts to make them really user-friendly to learn. And so that's what I've had the privilege of doing over the last 15 years, is learning it myself, and then also helping others who feel called to deeper love in their lives to learn it as well.
Well, I am so curious about everything you learned, but I have to ask, you have said your biggest accomplishment was learning to squeeze the toothpaste from the correct end of the tube. So, is that one of the things you learned on your journey? Tell us that story.
Oh, and that's a line that sometimes goes in my bio. That's just a funny joke. But what I love about it is it's not just funny. It really speaks to one of the keys to great lasting love. And that is, are we willing to put our ego aside and allow ourselves to be influenced by the other person? And John and Julie Gottman out of the University of Washington have a ton of research on this. And this is one of the things that they talk about is allowing yourself to be influenced is a demonstration of love. In other words, it's not my way or the highway. It's not, it's right to squeeze it from the front, squeeze the tube from the front, or squeeze it from the bottom. Is saying, okay, does this really matter? Is this particular thing super important to me? Or is it something that I can let go of? And so my wife and I have a practice on, like, how important is the thing that we're talking about on a scale of 1 to 10? This particular strategy of, you want to do it this way. Like, for example, do the dishes need to be done the night before, or can they get done the next morning? The dinner dishes. Like, there's no right or wrong to this. It's not like one, and I can hear people right now watching or listening to this going, no, for sure it's the night before. There is no way till the morning. Well, it all depends on your temperament. And so, but if it's a level 10, like my wife is, I want them done the night before. That's a level 10 for her, so that her whole system can relax, so that she can feel more at peace. And so for me, it's kind of a 50-50, like, it doesn't really matter. It can be done the night before or the next day. So I allow myself to be influenced. And so we make it a thing to make sure that we wash the dishes the night before for the most part. But that's where that comes from, is allow yourself to be influenced.
No, I love that. I think that's a really good lesson to learn. I think one of the things I say, for clients in sexual health at my program, Sexual CPR, it's like, know what your turnoffs are and communicate them. Because, like, if your turnoff is going into the bedroom and there's dirty clothes on the floor, like, you need to communicate, look, you have those dirty clothes on the floor. We're not having sex tonight. Like, that is, I like this. It's a level 10 for me. I
Mm-hmm.
think just being able to communicate those aspects are really important.
Yes. Yes. And what you're speaking to, really, there's something that over the last period of time has really got my attention around relationships, and not just what you're communicating, but how you're communicating it. And so there's a couple of best practices. One of them, and this isn't new, this is one I've taught for a long time, and it's in Cracking the Man Code, is we talk about you set up rules before things go haywire, rules for how you're going to communicate in the relationship. And one of them is the willingness to shovel while the pile is small. And I love this because so many of us have been taught, don't be such a drama king or a drama queen. Don't be so needy. Don't voice the things that matter to you until they become a big issue. Like, just deal with it, sweep it under the carpet. Like, so many of us grew up in homes like that, but that's actually so counterproductive to creating intimacy and connection in a relationship. And we make it way harder to solve challenges if we wait for it to become a mountain or a volcano that erupts, because we're so fed up with the socks being on the floor for the 17th time, and now we finally explode. But the idea is what you just spoke to, is shovel while the pile is small. In other words, where if it's an issue where it's kind of bothering you and you're thinking about it the next day, or it happens twice and it rattles you, you're feeling triggered by it, frustrated, angry, upset, whatever, then you have full permission to bring it to your partner and let them know, hey, this is not a big deal. And I'm shoveling while the pile is small here, so it doesn't become a big deal. Can we make a new agreement about how we put the clothes away, or when the dishes go away, or whatever the chore is, or whatever the state of being is? And that's a huge, huge deal. The second one
I
that
like
goes
that
with
one.
this is looking at the difference between strategies and needs. And what I love about this is this comes out of Marshall Rosenberg's work, Nonviolent Communication. And I think that is a brilliant book around how do we build more connection and communication. And one of them is our needs are, I think, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that we have food, water, shelter at the most basic level. And then all the way up, we have these universal human emotions or experiences that help us live a full, actualized, fulfilled life. So the need for safety, the need for connection, the need for belonging, the need for rest, the need for autonomy, the need for all these things that help us have an amazing life. And the difference here, though, is that so many of us, we haven't been taught this, that there's a difference between a strategy, which is how you get your need met, and the need itself. And so, for example, the other night, this was a few weeks ago, I come down from work, I'm doing podcasts and I'm doing other teaching and whatnot. And I've been sitting at this desk for like 10 hours. And I've got a need for exercise, for health, to move my body. That's the core need. How you know it's a need is it's a universal human experience. We all have a need for healthy bodies. My wife downstairs, she's been with the kids all day. And she has a bunch of open loops on planning stuff that she wants to connect with me on. And so her need is this need for two things. It's a need for connection and a need for peace, closing these open loops. And so I come downstairs and I'm like, hey, babe, I just need to go for a quick run. I'll be gone for like 30, 40 minutes. I've got to go for a run because I want to move my body. And she was, and we were exploring this needs and strategies idea. And she was like, you cannot go for a run right now. I've been with the kids all day. I need to close these loops with you. I want you to sit down and we're going to talk about this. Well, the last thing I wanted to do was sit down. I was like, it felt like nails on a chalkboard to say, let's sit down for 45 minutes and hash out all these open loops. And so there was like this immediate conflict. And then I paused and I went, wait a minute. My need is to move my body. The run is a strategy. A run by myself for 40 minutes is a strategy to meet the need of moving my body. She's got a need for connection and peace for closing these loops. The strategy is let's sit around the dinner table and get it done. I said, well, what if we go for a walk? Put a movie on for the kids. You and I go for a walk. We'll walk for an hour and we'll get it all done that way. And she was like, I love that idea. And so we were able to, often there's a strategy that you both can use to then meet both people's underlying need. And I love that concept because so often we get gridlocked on strategies without ever realizing what's the underlying need.
No, I like that. I mean, that's an excellent point too. And that's it's a meeting each other where you're at in a healthy compromise.
Right.
Like, I don't think compromise is a bad word. I mean, you really get to pour into each other and come to a strategy that helps you have that connection time that, feeds both of you. I think that's an excellent.
Well, and the misnomer on compromise, I believe, is that people think it's 50-50, that they assume compromise being 50-50. And if it is 50-50, then nobody gets their needs met, really. And so compromise is not 50-50 in the category you and I are talking about it. It's 100-100, but it's just the timing or different strategies that both people get their needs met to the 100%. Recognizing it's actually not the other person's job to meet our needs. It's our job to meet our needs, and we can ask for support, but the timing of how we do it, the strategy with which we do it, those things we can work together in what we call compromise to find a way that both of our needs get met 100%.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Now I want to go into the topic of masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah.
So being like the single mom for 15 years, the head of my company, the head of my family, the sole provider, and it really came to my awareness over this last year. I mean, I always knew that I'm functioning a little bit more in the masculine, but when my daughter for Father's Day said, "Mom, you're the best daddy a girl could have," I was like, okay, I've tilted a little bit too much into to my masculine. And especially when it comes into like having this balance between masculine and feminine energy, or even shifting out of that masculine as women. I want you to, you have taught a lot about the interplay between masculine and feminine energy. So, how does understanding this help women create healthier and more magnetic relationships?
So when we are not aware of this dynamic, whether we people believe in it or not, doesn't matter. It's like saying, I don't believe in aerodynamics or I don't believe in the law of gravity. Well, it doesn't really matter. It's at work anyways. And so it's really useful for us. And this was a big challenge in my love life. I was mentored by my sister growing up, and she's an amazing coach and mentor. And she taught me all kinds of stuff that was great growing up, like how to dance, and taught me how to dress and this kind of stuff, and taught me in dating. I modeled her strategies, and she's very much anchored in her feminine. And so I put on a lot of feminine attributes when attracting women. Challenges my home base energy is masculine. So understanding that masculine and feminine are not gender specific. What I mean by that is all human beings have both energies. It's just which one we want to lead from, and being purposeful, intentional, knowing that it's like a spectrum. It's not binary, all or one. You can move up and down and be more masculine or more feminine. And so, but it's really important to know that masculine attracts feminine and vice versa. It's like a magnet. And if you flip the magnet around, masculine repels masculine from a romantic standpoint. Even same sex partners, they'll talk about one of them tends to be more masculine, one of them tends to be more feminine, and they can switch roles. But the more that they're intentional about how they do it, the less conflict arises where there's a natural repulsion. So for me, I'd start out by attracting a woman from my feminine energy. So I'm attracting more women who are in their masculine, and they would pursue me. I would set it up so that they'd pursue me, and they were all in their masculine. And then at some point I'd switch into my masculine, and it was just the chemistry. We would either butt heads and have conflict, or the chemistry would fizzle and it would just be more friends, and it wasn't working. So the idea is it's the same coin. It's just different sides of the same coin. And so, for example, someone who is a CEO of their own business, or a business leader, or a high level executive, or so on and so forth, a lot of times we're raised to see examples of masculine energy in that role. But I want to suggest that's also an expiring myth, because the most successful CEOs, the most successful business owners have actually learned how to lead with both their masculine and feminine energy, because feminine energy is receptive energy. Great CEOs have an amazing intuition. That's more of a feminine attribute, where you're receptive to the guidance that's coming in the moment. Feminine energy is stating a request, being hands off, less micromanaging, and letting your team fulfill the request for you. Where masculine energy is more directive and more micromanaging. Masculine energy is vision driven energy. Feminine energy is more present, which is why you're able to access, when you're in the feminine, more intuition. But it's a combination of both that really matters. And it's often subtle moves. So when you're dating, for example, masculine would be you texting with a guy online, things are going well, and you're like, hey, I want you to call me on the phone. Like, let's talk on the phone. Can I call you? What's your number? Very simple. Like, you want to know that. So that's more pursuit. Feminine is the same coin, just the other side, where you can be absolutely direct. You can be proactive, but it's with a drawing energy versus a pursuing energy is feminine, where you say, hey, this conversation is going really well. I'd love to see if we have chemistry on the phone. I would love it if you'd call me. Here's my number. Call me tomorrow after 7. That's when I get done with work. So as you state a request, here's what I would love. Can you provide this for me? And you basically create a mission for the masculine energy, because the masculine loves productivity, achieving goals, and missions.
No, I love that. I love that example. So, what are some signs that a woman is leaning too much into her masculine energy without realizing it?
is that she's not attracting men who will pursue.
Mm.
She's not attracting men who will drive the conversation forward. That she's controlling the situation. She's making the plans. She's filling the space, we call it. Feminine energy creates a space and let the masculine fill it. So she'll say, hey, you know, let's get together. Or he'll say, hey, let's get together, but he doesn't make plans. And it just drives a woman who's used to leading and controlling and intermasculine, drives her crazy to not have the plan and I get it. It's like, can you just lead, please? Like, lead me. I'm a strong leader. I need someone to be a strong leader back. And so what they do is they'll jump in and they'll say, well, how about here are a couple places that we could go? How's Friday? How's 7? And they fill the gap and they control all of the energy. They start managing, masculine managing energy. Instead of, it takes way more strength actually to create space and then let him fill it or not fill it. But it's so much more revealing because you get to see.
Yeah. So like, so how should a woman respond to that message? Like they want to get together, but there's no plan. Just wait.
So
what? Wait.
Yeah. So there's 2 responses. One is in the initial setup of when he asks, letting him know what helps you feel safe, what helps you feel really good, and asking him to provide it for you. So he says, hey, let's go out sometime. And you say, I would love that. And if you'd be willing, please give me a few days heads up of when you want to go out and create a plan, because that helps me feel really safe. It helps me feel seen. And it's super rare these days. And he'll say, great. And so now you've set the gauntlet, you've set the mission for him. And then you don't fill the gap. That's the point. You said, do I just let him go? Yes, 100%. Because then you know what you're getting. You're like, okay, this guy doesn't have the chops to meet me where I want to be met. Half of manifesting your man faster is getting rid of the wrong guys faster. And when you carry the load for them, you don't really know what it is that, how interested they are and really what they're capable of.
No, that's a really good point. Now, this really leads me well into my next question. How can women embrace their feminine without feeling like they're giving up that power or independence?
Right. So it's the obliterating the myth that femininity is weak. Femininity is submissive. Femininity is passive. All of those. In Cracking the Man Code, I lay out this big list of masculine, what is masculine attributes, what are feminine attributes. And then I go on to say, what's toxic masculinity and what's toxic femininity. And so often we get these blurred and confused because of what we're told in the media or what our parents tell us or whatnot. But femininity is not passive, not submissive, and not weak. Those are all toxic versions of an old, outdated femininity. Femininity is extremely proactive and powerful. And it's in the power of calling forth what it is that you want and assembling the team that will be able to deliver it for you, whether it's in business or in the relationship. It's setting boundaries and standards and being very direct in your boundaries and standards. I'll give you an example of this. I was so unpracticed in this. I was still operating. I just learned about masculine and feminine when I met my wife, like early on. And so I was still had a lot of habits that were feminine. When I met her the very first time, I was at this book signing event and it was a wedding expo. She was working another booth. I put on my masculine energy. I went up, I asked her name. I struck up the conversation. It was really hard. And I was really not sure if it was going to go well, but I was so attracted. I was like, oh my gosh, I'll never forgive myself. I don't at least talk to her. And so it was a 2-day event and I kept going over, talking to her. Finally, I asked her out. And so I pursued her to that degree. Well, we lived in different states. So it was a month before we actually went on our first date. And I gravitated back into my feminine approach. So I said, hey, let's go out. I'm coming back down to Los Angeles, where she lived in that area. Let's go on a first date. So she's like, great. So I roll up to her house to pick her up for a first date. And she comes, and so I knock on the door. She comes out, get in the car. And she's like, so where are we going? And I'm like, I'll take you anywhere you want to go. Where would you love to go? I get to see everyone right now. rolling their eyes like, are you kidding me, Matt Boggs? You did not show up with no plan. Yes, I did. I showed up with no plan, like literally no plan. And she goes, this is 2008. So the smartphones had just come out 2007. It wasn't like today where your Yelp was big and all of that. But she was like, you don't have a plan? And I'm like, well, and in that moment, I knew that I had messed up and I knew that she was expecting a plan. And I was already feeling like I'm failing out of the gate. And I liked her. I wanted to impress her. And it's her town. Like she knows where she wants to go. So I'm kind of debating in my head. And I'm like, well, I like anywhere you like, this is your town. You know where you want to go. And she was like, Matt, I like Italian food and I like sushi. Why don't you take a moment, pick any one of those spots and it'll be fine. And so I got beads of sweat coming down my face and I'm pulling my phone out and I find this sushi joint in Huntington Beach. And I said, how about this place? And she was like, great. And so we go to this place called Tuna Town with our first date. And something I never expected happened. I didn't recognize that there is a risk when I pick the place versus if she just tells me what she wants and I take her there, it's fine. I'm delivering a goal, but there's less risk in that. The greater the risk, the greater the reward if it goes well. And so when we walked into Tuna Town, it was a killer spot. It looked super cool. It was this. She walked in, she looked around and she looked at me and she was like, great choice. And I felt something that I had never felt with other women because I had always let them lead. And it was this feeling, this masculine surge of energy, of dopamine and achieving the goal and all of that, that I was like, this is awesome. And we had a great time and we connected and so on and so forth. But she was so comfortable in her feminine energy, so comfortable sitting there in the dead silent space while I looked up where she was going to go, where we were going to go. She invited me into my masculine, that it set us up for the beginning of the greatest love story I've ever known.
Oh, that is so beautiful and started with Tuna Town. Can't make that up. No.
A lot of great love stories start with Tuna Town.
Yeah, that's so cool. That is really, and that's a really good example. They say, you're feeling that accomplishment, being put on that pedestal. Like the hero of the story. You picked a great place, and that's, that's powerful feminine masculine communication and remembering that. And sometimes, I know in my own life, it's hard when you've been in control for so long to be in that, receptive surrender type of energy in a positive way, to allow and to give space for the masculine to really show up for you.
And one of the pitfalls, and this is where it's important to notice this. In Cracking the Man Code, we talk about there's two energies that if you are feminine, but you've been leading in other areas, like in other words, we can all go back and forth. So if you want, let me say it this way, if you want to lead with your feminine in romance, but you run with a lot of masculine energy in other areas, then one of the things to be mindful of is feminine energy loves to help, loves to contribute, loves to better everything around it. And so one of the challenges is that when we're dating, one of the things we want to do is we want to help. And if it can be received by masculine energy as unsolicited advice. So for example, there was a woman named Jennifer that I coached, and she couldn't figure out why these dates, like people wouldn't ask her out on second dates and nothing was progressing. There also wasn't just a lot of connection. And finally, she was learning about masculine and feminine energy and realizing, I am micromanaging these dates. Like he would pick her up and they'd be driving and she would tell him when the exit was going to come to get over into the exit lane, just being helpful. Like, hey, just, like you might want to get over because the exit's coming up, and they'd take the exit. And then she'd see a parking lot up front by the restaurant. So hey, there's a parking spot up there. You should go park over there. Not realizing that all of this isn't actually seen as contribution. It's seen as micromanaging. And what's communicated to masculine energy is, I don't trust you to provide for me. One of the single greatest fears that masculine men have, like healthy masculine men, is the fear of inadequacy. That I'm not going to measure up for you, because if I can't measure up for you, then I can't deliver happiness. I can't be the man you want me to be. And if you're constantly micromanaging or suggesting these types of things, it's communicating in subtle ways. Oh, I don't believe you actually can deliver what I want you to deliver. And it just kills the attraction early in the dating process. We need to feel, one of the key ways that we know that we can, it's a subconscious signal that we know we can at least aim to be the man that you want, is when you're relaxed. Because a woman who's relaxed is not stressed and she's not in fear. Now, he's got his job to do to be able to help you relax. It's not just a one-sided street, but the more that you can shift into, I'm going to just be on this date, and what I've asked him to do, I'm going to let him do it and trust he's going to deliver on that, and relax into that space to whatever degree you can. It is a great communication of signal of attraction.
Okay, there's a lot here that I'm going to have to remember, Matt, for sure. Let's dive into attraction and pursuit. You often say that stop chasing and start being pursued. So, what does that look like in practice?
It looks like chasing is directing the interaction, where you say, I want you to call me. I want you to, or excuse me, I take that back. It's the reverse. It's I want to call you. Let's go out at 7. It's you're driving and directing the interaction. Inviting yourself to be pursued is very, very similar, but it's just asking for what you want and allowing him to lean in and give it to you. So for example, just recently on one of our coaching calls, there was a woman like, gosh, I'm so tired of guys who don't progress things online. They just want to text all the time and so on and so forth. But I don't want to be the masculine and like progress the relationship forward. And I was helping her, no, that's a myth. You could absolutely be the feminine and help things progress forward by inviting them forward. It's pulling energy versus pushing energy. So saying, hey, I'm kind of getting bored with texting. I would love to talk to you on the phone. Would you be willing to call me sometime? Here's what I would love. Would you do this? It's a beautiful mission for masculine energy.
Really expressing your needs and what you want, and not, being afraid to say so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then what are some of the common mistakes women make when trying to get a man's attention?
Well, I just actually did a whole program on this, on things we should never do for a man, no matter how much we like him, no matter how much we're in love with him, no matter how long we've been with him. And one of the primary things we should never do is compromise our standards. So what happens is we end up attracting somebody who has it all together. They're finally successful. They're finally spiritual or religious. They share your same faith. They finally are healthy. Like there's like, oh, they've got it all together. And then we don't want to mess it up. And so we don't actually communicate our standards and boundaries. And we might sleep with them before we promised ourselves we would, or we'll let the relationship progress faster than we promised ourselves it would. But holding your standards and boundaries is absolutely key for several things. For number one, the emotional bonding that happens, which is interesting. Anna, you may have some insights on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. But I watched a TED Talk about a year ago that talked about the biochemistry in men, specifically around sex. And long story short, the the TED Talk started out with, my grandmother was really wise. And it basically was, my grandmother would tell me not to sleep with a guy until we were committed. And I never understood why. Well, I guess the research shows that before a man is committed to a relationship, when he sleeps with a woman, all the biochemistry and the interaction actually causes his bonding hormones to decrease. And that's why a lot of men will pull away after they sleep with somebody if they're not yet committed. But there's a thing that happens when someone's committed. They make the mental decision, I am exclusive with you. I want to be with you. I don't want to see anybody else. It doesn't have to be engaged or married, but just I'm exclusive and I'm committed to this particular relationship. That then when you sleep together, it actually bonds you, the bonding chemical cocktail, not just oxytocin, but vasopressin and other things, bond him even stronger to you. So that line of being committed versus not committed is really key in terms of the process. So that's why I say a lot of times the standard is I don't want to sleep with somebody until we're in a committed monogamous relationship. Now, that might not be your thing, the person listening or watching. It might be that you want to have fun and date, and this is your chance to create variety for yourself. That's great as well. And just know that whatever it is that you would love, you're the highest authority. This is my view. And so if you're the highest authority and what you want to do is wait until you're committed and monogamous because that's your value system, then you absolutely want to communicate that to the partner that you're in and know that the biochemistry actually backs it up, that it supports the two of you bonding and becoming even closer if that's the case.
I think that's so important to realize because I talk about this with women all the time. Like, okay, wait till you really know that you want to be with someone before you sleep with them. Because for women, oxytocin secreted, you have to say, okay, I just want to have fun and flirt around. Now I've got this. Now I'm thinking, okay, that's oxytocin's in. I'm bonded at least for the next 2 weeks physiologically. And I think I can make it work with this person. So you think, okay, I think I can make it work for this with this person. And you're just like, that's the hormonal, the physiology. With men, how interesting that before that commitment, like that sexual interaction will drive down his dopamine and testosterone. Right? That's going to drive that down physiologically. And so without the oxytocin connection, that intimacy and bonding connection, they're responding physiologically too. So I hadn't looked at it from that hormonal perspective for men prior to commitment.
Yeah, it was something that we knew from a social dynamic. I mean, I've been coaching women for over 15 years and you just see it over and over and over again. The bonding goes way up for the woman, goes down for the men if they're just casual. And now again, heroes love to tell the victor's tales, which is, oh, the person who slept on the first date, now they've been married for 30 years. Yes, that happens. And yes, that's out there. But more often than not, sleeping together early doesn't support the connection. It actually inhibits the connection. So in Cracking the Man Code, I call it the alchemy of sex drive. You can actually take the pent up energy that he's feeling for a sexual connection, and by delaying it, you convert it into emotional connection where he can actually answer some questions for himself about the relationship, which is, do I want her? Right? Do I and I know that might sound strange, but in the beginning, it's, oh, do I want her as a partner in my life? Am I ready to forego all other options right now? Or is having a lot of options a higher priority for me? Do I believe I'm the one who can actually make her happy? Do I believe I can measure up with her? These are a few of the questions that he goes through, and he needs check marks and yeses on these before he's able to say, okay, I'm going to commit to this relationship.
Then you have someone who's ready, right?
Right.
So how can then women ignite that attraction in their partner? Like whether they've been, whether they're dating or if they've been married for years, like to reignite, I have a whole course called sexual CPR on that side of bringing life back into your sex and intimacy. But in other ways, right, outside the bedroom, like what can women do that will ignite attraction and that commitment in their partner? That's what they want.
Well, who are we talking about? Are we talking about people who are dating? Are we talking about people who've been married for 30
Both.
years?
I'm curious for both.
The commonality that, and I'd love to hear your research on this as well. The one commonality that I have found in both is friendship and adventure. In other words, when you are having fun together and you're doing things together, you're connecting, versus let's say you're married and feel like you're basically just housemates. Like you're both just managing the house and your ship's passing in the night and you're just getting everything done, and school, or like if you have little kids like I do, it's like, that's crazy and whatnot. Are you taking time to actually stoke the connection between the two of you one-on-one and going and having fun together? And building that friendship then is like a friendship that catches fire, creates more connection, creates more intimacy, creates more bonding. That emotional intimacy increases, and then that leads to physical intimacy. The other is then if you look at all the things that get in the way of physical intimacy, which is coming down to shovel while the pile is small, is basically after a period of time, it's, does this person, are you just putting up with intimacy, or are you learning each other and what the two of you want and what feels really good to one another, and getting yourself educated? Like, I don't have any sex programs, but I have colleagues that do. And I love that you have one, Anna. And so I've taken a few sex programs and they blew my mind. How much I thought I knew, but I didn't know. I'm like, holy moly. And so the idea of staying humble enough to learn and say, okay, do I know how to have the conversations with my partner and what feels good and what doesn't feel good? Do I know about their anatomy? Do I know their particular style and how to engage with one another, and treat it as a, not just a sex session, but an intimacy session? Like, for example, one of the courses we had was talking about quickies and the value of quickies. Well, this is probably 5 years ago. My wife and I were talking about this, and she was like, oh yeah, like, I'm totally into quickies. I was like, wait, what? You never told me this. And she was like, well, I never thought you wanted it. You always want longer lovemaking sessions. I'm like, I wanted that because I thought that's what you wanted. Like, I'm trying to give to you. Both of us were trying to give to the other person. We had left out of the menu of options the option for a quickie for 9 years before we took this program. And I'm like, holy moly. So the last 5 years have been filled with a whole nother menu option where there's a time for this, where she doesn't have to climax with a quickie, but it still feels really good to her because we're connecting for 30 seconds. No, maybe not that quick, but we're connecting
That's pretty quick.
But we're connecting for that period of time. I was like, wow, that is so, it's so good. So fuel the friendships. And then, so the bottom line would be fuel friendship and have adventure together, but also then learn together in this category, because it opens up whole new areas that you may not even know.
No, I love that. And it always, like, friendship. I've studied cultures around the world and some of the, like, traditional cultures and their societies and longevities and how they've navigated really harsh conditions and trauma and things like that. But again, maintaining long time marriages, like what that looks like. And it's friendships, it's family surrounding you, it's communication, it's like all those aspects that I think are really powerful. One thing that I see, I have 4 daughters, 17 to age 36, and I think about them, and then me, in my midlife dating. Probably we'll see. Okay. So the concept of self-worth and self-love, like how that magnetize, how important is knowing your self-worth and loving yourself prior to entering a relationship.
Oh, it's everything. It's absolutely foundational. This was actually the thing that made me realize, as I was going through crash and burn relationship, I realized the one common denominator in all of those relationships was me. And so my mom sent me to this seminar. She goes, I think you'd be good for you to learn about yourself and about what's in the way and so on and so forth. So I go to this seminar, and it's a week long, and there's about 100 people there, 50 men, 50 women about. And so on day 4, we're playing this game called the Island Game. And it changed my life, this game, because the men were instructed to sit in these chairs, a row of 50 chairs with clipboards. And the women were lined up in front of us, and the women were given the instruction, if this guy in front of you was the last man on the planet to choose from, based on his beingness over the last 4 days, would you choose him to be on a deserted island with you or not? And ladies, I want you to go down to every 50 man, look him in the eyes, and you're going to vote yes or no on this guy. The temperature in the room went sky high. And we were like, oh my gosh, seriously. And kudos to the women. They were so brave. They went down and just gave every man a yes vote or a no vote. And at the end, the men were instructed to stand up and order themselves from the man who had the most yeses down on the far end to the man who had the most no's on this end. And when we all compared our numbers and took our places, I was second to last with yeses. In other words, the second most no votes in the entire room.
I'm
And
sad for you.
I was ashamed and I was horrified by where I was standing and confused because I thought I had been showing up nice and like the guy next to me was rude. Like nobody liked that guy next. He was like a total asshole like the whole week. I was like, I'm standing next to this guy. The facilitator goes, is there anyone there? Is anyone surprised by where they're standing? And so very embarrassed, I raised my hand and she goes, great. Is there any woman here who would be willing to give Matt the gift of feedback and explain why they voted no? And all these hands shot up in the room. And they all started sharing why they voted no. And ultimately, what it all came down to was they all felt like some of them called it, like they didn't feel like they could connect to the real me. They felt like I was the like people pleasing, like had a looking good program, trying to earn their favor. And the truth of the matter is, as much as I wanted to deny that, I felt the truth of what they were saying. And I had a people pleasing paradigm going on that said, if I was perfect, it was a perfectionist and the people pleaser, meaning I had to earn love. Growing up, I just hooked up the idea that if I got straight A's, if I was good at sports, if I was XYZ, my parents are ministers. So if I was like the good minister kid, that I would get love and acceptance, that's what created connection. And so I hooked this up that I have to earn love from other people. And if I can make them happy, make them pleased, then I can earn their love. And it was just repelling to these women such that I would be voted second to last. And so I went on a journey I remember that night laying in bed and just deciding for myself, that what they said was true. And the irony was I wanted connection more than anything else. And my approach was costing me the very thing I wanted most, which was that love and connection. And so I was going to figure out how to solve it. And the journey led me straight to self-love. How do you love yourself? How do you accept yourself? And recognizing that it's not a binary light. You either love yourself or you don't, but it's a process and it's a muscle and it's an ongoing practice. But the cool part is that nothing is greater than love. No trauma from the past, no self-criticism, no judgment, no shame, no guilt, no mistake is greater than love. And that when you operate in this experience of being willing to love the parts of ourselves that feel unlovable, that it actually heals in such a tremendous way that it's like all the layers come crumbling down and you get to move from this place of authenticity, whether people like you or not. And it's freeing. And it's like the doorway completely opens up. Because what happens is, and this is what I was experiencing, is I was never attracting the people that I wanted. Like anyone I liked didn't like me. And the ones that did like me, I was not interested in. And like the ones I like, they were like long distance or they'd be emotionally unavailable. And so what that is that is our heart keeping us safe, making it very convenient that we'll never actually get into a relationship because the internal belief is I'm unlovable. So if I actually get into a relationship with somebody that I love and they discover that I'm unlovable, it will be unbearable. And I will have so much, it'll be too painful. And so what the paradigm does, that limiting belief, is it sets up a whole scenario where we don't have to get into a relationship because we're not attracted to anyone who really likes us. What I found is that after doing the self-love work, it was before I met my wife, like the door of who I was attracting into my life swung wide open. I was meeting all kinds of people that I liked and they liked me back. And I was like, this is a new experience. Holy moly, this is amazing. And it changed my life. So it's foundational, absolutely foundational. There's a whole piece to this in cracking the man code because it's so
I
important.
think that's the magnetism, creating that magnetism and that sense of um, showing up authentically, like you're taking down some walls to show up authentically, and how important that is for the right relationships.
Right.
So, can you give us a couple quick pearls on how to quickly step into that space of magnetism, self-love, and self-worth?
So yes, there's a couple great daily practices on self-love, because so self-worth is a byproduct of self-love. When you love yourself, then you feel worthy of the things that you want. And so one is several times a day, you can place your hand on your heart and your solar plexus and take a deep breath in and ask the question, what is it? What in me needs my love and acceptance right now? You take a deep breath in. What in me needs my love and acceptance right now? And it might be a mistake you made. It might be that you created some social and it didn't go the way you wanted it, or didn't get the views you wanted, or you made a mistake. And then you find that place in you and you open your heart and you imagine, use the faculty of your imagination to send a beam of love from your heart to that place in you. And feel that place then begin surrounded in love, see it and feel it healed, and see it and feel it reintegrating with your whole being. That's one. The second is called mirror the love, which is in the morning and at night when you're you're brushing your teeth or getting ready for your day, you're at the mirror. Look at yourself and do this for a whole minute. Look in your eyes and look in the right eye and then look in the left eye and say the words, I love you, out loud, not even in your head, out loud for a whole minute straight. And so it would be, and you can place your hand on your heart, I love you. I love you. I love you. And you're just pouring love into yourself in the morning and at night. And I know these might sound simple, but I promise you, for so many of us, it's super awkward. And the awkwardness we experience is a direct representation to the lack of love that we actually embody. So it's like saying, I'm going to go for a run and my legs are burning and my lungs are burning because I'm out of shape. Well, that's because we're out of shape in this. So it will feel comfortable when you're in shape with loving yourself. And so put it on like an exercise. I'm going to get more and more comfortable with this practice, and you will see the amount of love. And here's what's great. The love and acceptance and patience you have for yourself skyrockets, and unconsciously people will feel more loved and accepted around you. You will become more magnetic, because there's nothing that feels better than for us to feel loved and accepted for who we are without having to earn it or prove anything. Mm-hmm. And we know those people, they're just you just love being around them, and you just feel at home in their presence. That's what this does.
No, I love that. And I love that concept of like, where do I need my love and acceptance today? I mean, I just like, I think pouring into that's not a question I've asked myself. Like that's a really powerful question, and can feel there's a lot of healing there with that too. So, okay, we're all lining up to pre-order your book, Cracking the Man Code. Tell us what we can expect when we open up the pages, and of course, how to connect with you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm so proud of this book. I've spent over 5 years writing this book and crafting it. And here's what I love about it. It's simple, easy frameworks around how men fall in love, how to communicate with your man, and how to create deeper connection with him, how to understand him in whole new ways. And you'll get frameworks, phrases to say that open his heart, open his mind. And you're going to have so much fun with this book, testing out different things and then seeing the response that you get from your man. Like it's phenomenal. So you can get it where all books are sold. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. It's on all the places. Cracking the Man Code by Matt Boggs. There's a couple of them out there. Actually, one other book that has that title that's about something completely different, about being like a father or something like that. But this one is all about your relationship with your romantic man. And so I think it comes out in March 2026. So pre-order it if you're hearing this before then. If not, you'll be able to get your copy, and you're going to love it. And it's chock full of not only great info, but a lot of great bonuses as well that are in the book that take the learning even deeper.
Nice. So where can it be pre-ordered?
On Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, on one of those two places would be great, or wherever your favorite bookstore is. Okay. And then if people want to follow more about what we're doing, and programs that I'm offering coaching, they can go to bravethinkinginstitute.com, or we've got a little acronym BTI.com. And we've got all kinds of programs and coaching that support people as well.
That's wonderful. And your Instagram, Matt, is
Matt Boggs. Instagram and the handle Matt Boggs.
all right. We'll put all those links in the show notes, everyone. I want to thank you so much, Matt. You reminded us that the love we seek isn't outside, it starts from within. And so, to everyone listening, envision the partnership you crave, then take one bold step forward towards it today. I think that, learning that love is always in motion, and, receiving and recognizing the love that's within ourselves creates the greatest magnetism to what we want in our lives, to who we want in our lives. And that in partnership, you can compound that growth and interest. So I want to thank all our listeners for being here on the Girlfriend Doctor Show. Definitely check out Matt's book. I'm like, I want a galley copy. I want a preprint copy. That's what I want. And Cracking the Man Code by Matt Boggs. You guys share this episode. I know there's so many men. I'm going to send it to all of my daughters and friends, and and certainly we'll have a listening day on our team to just listening to this episode. I mean, just what we learn in relationships with our most sacred partnership carries through to all our friendships and relationships in our life. So it's important. And here's to showing up authentically. I love being your girlfriend doctor. Thank you, everyone. Till next time.
Thanks for watching another episode of the Girlfriend Doctor podcast. Check out all the links below for more.